Good morning, everyone. I will begin our session today, and my name is Rachel. I'm the moderator of today's webinar. So, before we begin, I would like to go through the housekeeping notes. So, attendees will join with a listen mode only to enable our speakers to present without any interruption during the presentation. After the presentation, you'll be unmuted for the Q&A. However, a question can be raised throughout the webinar session through the chat widget that's located at the top right of the Microsoft Teams application. Then we will answer the question accordingly. And thirdly, kindly note that this session will be recorded in order to offer to the attendees after the webinar session. And I'll bring you through today's agenda. So we will begin with a welcome remark of Lilibeth Tumbali, our sales manager of Softline. And then we have invited our esteemed speakers from Microsoft, Vet Watson, the Modern Work and Security Business Lead Group from Microsoft. Thank you, Vet. And we'll follow by a demo session exclusively presented by Joanne Makalas of our Security Technology Specialist. Then last but not least, the most anticipated session that we will be offering several promotions and workshops that is available for you exclusively at this session that is presented by John Christopher Ortiz, our customer success executive. And we will end our session with a Q&A, and you can actually raise your question to our speakers lively, and we will answer your questions accordingly. And before any further, I will actually invite our first presenter, which is Miss Lilibeth, to present the first session of today, the welcome remark. Over to you, Beth.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you had your breakfast already. Welcome to our webinar for today. Together with Microsoft, Softline is bringing you powering digital transformation. And for today's webinar, we will be discussing Modernize your workplace with zero trust security. We've been in a pandemic for more than a year now. And there were many changes happened and is happening around us still. And one of the most drastic changes that happened was working remotely. Most of us, if not, we were used to gather in the office, meeting customers or partners face to face. For those who have not prepared for this, based on research, the one that you are seeing on the screen now, these are the top challenges globally most of the companies faced when pandemic hits us last year. How to protect attacks to new devices or connections, how to secure the corporate data when the employees are accessing corporate data outside the traditional office connection, and among others. But fret not, we are conducting different kinds of webinars like this to help you protect and secure your company's biggest asset, which is the data. So why Softline? So by the way, thank you for attending this webinar. And Softline has been awarded or recognized for different categories by Microsoft. This ensures our customers that we, in Softline, always strive to give the best customer service, best possible solution to journey with our customers towards digital transformation and cybersecurity. We invest in improving our services portfolio. We are actually Microsoft Azure Expert MSP. We have our SOC setup, NOC setup. We have advanced specializations in security and in cloud infra. More of it will be showcased by my colleagues later. We were able to help customers to have minimal to no disruption in their business operations in different industries with different challenges, from remote work solution for a BPO company to to continue their business to serve their customers, to a retail store to have a collaboration tool to make their employees work more productive, to a healthcare institution which needs their application be available anytime, anywhere for their customers and employees too. So you can trust that in Softline, we know we can, whatever challenges that you may have in your organizations. So please feel free to engage us in your journey. For those who have for those who have not known Softline yet, so we actually call our company Glocal. Glocal meaning global and local. We have a global mindset with local execution. We have footprints in 50 countries and 95 cities worldwide, and we keep on growing. Softline has been in the industry for more than 25 years now. And if you have not heard the news yet, Softline is now a listed company trading in London Stock Exchange and Moscow Exchange. So this is a new milestone for Softline as a group. To to better serve our customers, Softline acquired these companies, the one that you are seeing on the screen, Aplana, T1 Group, Softline AG, Squalio, and MB. With niche, these companies have niche solution to improve our services offering. And to complete our portfolio, we actually partner with this global technology vendor to make Softline as one-stop shop for all hardware, software, and services projects. You can see on your screen now the known logos. These are the companies who have trusted Softline to be their partner of choice in helping them to their digital transformation and cybersecurity journey. We also build our competencies, skills, and knowledge for every solution that would best serve our customers and meet their needs all over the globe. So that is Softline, a digital transformation and cybersecurity solutions provider. Back to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Beth. So, as a sum up, actually, softline companies offer various of services and solutions to the customers, as we listed in the slides. We offer cybersecurity solutions, software, Microsoft solutions, software asset management, and etc. etc. So, do contact us if you are interested to engage us as your IT transformation, digital transformation partner. So I will invite the next speaker of today. Let's welcome Vet Watson, Microsoft Modern Workplace and Security Business Lead Group. Over to you, Vet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Before I move forward, quick check, is my audio okay?
Loud and clear, Vet. Thanks.
Fantastic. So let me kick off by trying to share my screen. And while I'm doing that, thank you, each and every one of you, for spending the time with us this morning. I would have hoped that we would have seen each other in person. And I'm seeing a number of familiar names, in fact. Good to see you here, Sir Rafi, and a few other folks I think are over here. So welcome, and salamat. Thank you for spending your morning with us. Um, and I really do hope in our future sessions, no, very soon we'll be able to see each other face to face, sharing coffee and desserts, no. But in the meantime, fortunate to have you here, and we're fortunate to be able to spend at least a few minutes in the next, I think, 40 minutes I have to talk a bit about how we want to help you jointly, Microsoft and Softline, to really embark on this zero trust journey, right? So I want to walk you through on how you can begin your zero trust journey, right? Maybe you're struggling to figure out what to prioritize first from a security implementation standpoint, right? There's just so many things and so many vectors. Should we secure email first because we're predominantly using email? Should we secure identities, devices? There's just so many priorities. And so we understand that implementing a zero trust security model can be intimidating for many organizations. But starting with the framework, right? A framework like zero trust can help ease you into that journey. Okay. All right. Now, the global pandemic put us, all of us, on an accelerated path of digital transformation and has brought to light many difficult challenges organizations must face, right? The traditional network and security perimeter model has pretty much disappeared. Where we work has evolved to a mix of locations and models from remote to hybrid models. Diba? No matter where workers are, access to variety of tools are essential to be productive. And on top of this, organizations are dealing with an increasing volume and sophistication of threats, right? We've all seen or heard the headlines, Nobelium, Colonial Pipeline, just to name a few. The threat landscape has and continues to evolve, right? Cyber attacks are on the rise during the pandemic. They're latching on our fears. The rush to scale remote work last year has left potential, security vulnerabilities. The use of personal devices at home to access work data is difficult to manage and protect. And on top of that, organizations lack, skilled security personnel and must keep up with the evolving data privacy and industry regulations. So this new reality requires a zero trust approach when it comes to security. Okay. So what exactly is zero trust? It's a security framework, right? This is not a Microsoft term. This is actually an acknowledged security framework from the industry, right? And it responds to the needs of individuals and organizations in this new reality. Okay. There are three key things, or what we call the three key principles to zero trust. Number one, verify explicitly. Number two, use least privilege access. And number three, always assume breach. There's this perception that we always have to protect, guard, right? But in most cases, they may be already there. So what do? Right? And then we look at each other saying, you know what, we never had a strategy of what if it has happened, right? How do we assume breach? Right? So verifying explicitly means moving from assumption to explicit verification. Always authenticate. Authorize based on available data points, right? User identity, the location, the device health, the application that's trying to be accessed, and so much more. So there are all there's these considerations before you want to fully allow somebody access, right? Because they may have the right password, but what if they're accessing from a location they've never logged in before? Don't you want to at least challenge that by something like a multi-factor authentication challenge? Number two, as I mentioned, use least privilege access, right? Adopt a policy-based access model. So limit user access to only what they need and when they need it. You should never have an IT administrator that has godlike powers, because you never know what could happen, right? And finally, assume breach. Design with the assumption that every element of your system can be breached. Minimize the blast radius for breaches and employ a security strategy to prevent lateral movement when it does happen. Okay? So with zero trust, you can employ these new principles by ensuring every access request is strongly authenticated. It's authorized within policy constraints and inspected for anomalies before granting access. Right? Everything from the user's identity to the application's hosting environment is supposed to be used to verify the request and prevent breach. And to limit the impact of potential breaches, you can apply segmentation policies, employ the principle of least privilege access, and use analytics, right? Use the power of analytics to help detect and respond quickly to threats. A zero trust approach should, extend through the entire digital estate, right? Don't think about just securing, say, your Microsoft Cloud platform, right? It should be end to end, right? As you think about security, you think about identities, think about your endpoints, Microsoft, non-Microsoft, Mac, Windows, right? iOS devices, Android devices. Think about apps, wherever those apps are hosted. right? They're hosted on the cloud, they're hosted on-prem, right? They're accessed on mobile devices. The data, the data itself, right? Where is the data located? Is it moving through time? Is it encrypted in transit as well as wherever it's hosted? Uh, Infrastructure, right? Do you secure your infrastructure overall as well as networks, right? So when you think about it, zero trust is truly end to end, and it serves as an integrated security philosophy and really an end to end strategy, right? So let's zoom in a bit. Identities. Identities, whether they represent people, services, IoT devices, define the zero trust control plane. When an identity attempts to access a resource, we need to verify that identity with strong authentication, ensure access is compliant and typical for that identity, and that it's not some crazy login that we've never seen before, and follow the least privilege access principles. As you look at your endpoints, once an identity has been granted access to a resource, data can flow. It can flow out of those apps, right? To a variety of different devices, from IoT devices to smartphones to devices that can be BYOD to even partner managed devices and on premises workloads to cloud hosted servers. This diversity creates a massive attack surface area requiring we monitor and enforce device health and compliance for secure access. Right? If I ask you today, or maybe your security manager or CISO ask you today, how many of our devices are compliant based on our policies? Right? Not based on Microsoft's or whatever standard, but based on our policies as we comply to, say, the BSP. Right? How many of our devices are compliant today? We don't know. Right? That's not a position you want to be in. Applications, right? So think about your applications and your APIs provide the interface by which data is consumed, right? They may be legacy on premises, lift and shifted to cloud workloads, or modern, software as a service application, right? Controls and technology should be applied to discover things like shadow IT, right? People using their own tools, departments using their own tools just because. Ensure appropriate in-app permissions, gate access based on real-time analytics, monitor for abnormal behavior, things like bulk downloads of files that generally don't happen, control of user actions, validate secure configuration options. And then finally, data. Ultimately, security teams are focused on actually protecting data. We're not protecting identities for the purposes of securing identities, right? We're not securing devices for the purposes of safeguarding those devices. It's really for the data. And where possible, data should remain safe, even if it leaves the devices, the apps, the infra, and the networks that your organization controls, right? Data should be classified properly, labeled, encrypted, and access, restricted based on those attributes. As you think about your infrastructure, whether they're on premises, cloud-based virtual machines, containers, microservices, they represent, a critical threat vector as well. Diba? Assess for version configuration, version support, and just-in-time access to hardened defense. Right? Use telemetry to detect attacks and anomalies, and automatically block and flag risky behavior, and then take protective actions. And finally, networks. All data is ultimately accessed over your network infrastructure. Right? Networking controls can provide critical in-pipe controls to enhance visibility and help prevent attackers from moving laterally, right, across the network. Networks should be segmented, including deeper in-network microsegmentation and real-time threat protection. End-to-end encryption, monitoring, and analytics should be employed. Each of these elements serve as a source of the signal, right? A control plane for enforcement and also a critical resource to defend. Now, you should appropriately spread your investments across each of these elements for true maximum protection. Now, the foundation, right? The foundation of any great zero trust security model starts with securing two key things: the identities and the endpoints. Okay? Identity based attacks such as password breaches, are still one of the most common vectors, no, with 80% of breaches involving the use of lost or stolen passwords. And with workers being distributed and using a variety of devices, unsecured devices put your data at risk. 60% of bring your own devices today are unsecured by IT, right? Having a secure modern identity and endpoint management implementation is critical to anyone's zero trust journey. And with IT and security teams familiar with managing identity and endpoints, it makes it a logical place to start when setting the foundation for the zero trust security model. Now, by securing your identities and your endpoints, it helps, increase both security as well as productivity. When I think about security has to be something that blends naturally. It's non-negotiable, right? We know, as you think about building mobile apps, as you think about building deploying apps for your business scenarios, as you think about pretty much everything around an IT investment, there's always a question mark of security. So we know it's non-negotiable. But at the same time, I strongly believe that it's something that has to be built in, something that's in the flow of my work, something that doesn't hinder me from being productive, right? And that's the best balance you can have. Security, where IT, your CISO has peace of mind, but you're not at the level where your end users pretty much hate you already for all the things that I need to do, right? Now, we recently commissioned a total economic impact studies, right, with the Forrester Research Group about securing identities and endpoints with modern cloud-based solutions like Azure Active Directory and Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And the benefits were clear, right? Organizations saw a 45% reduction in the likelihood of a data breach. Organizations saw a 75% reduction of password reset requests by enabling self-service password reset. An organization saw increased IT efficiency with a 50% reduction in overall management effort and 80%, is that right? 80% deployment time was actually saved. So there's a case around it. There's the case around setting up zero trust foundations. It's not just a matter of it's nice to have. It's a cost center for your organization, but there really is savings towards it, right? Now, by building really strong one, a strong trust foundation with securing identities and endpoints, it can help a few things, right? Number one, you accelerate your journey to the cloud with the use of modern identity and endpoint managed solutions. Securing your hybrid workforce is key, right? Ensuring your critical resources and data are all protected. Transforming your employee experiences, right? To ensure seamless access to apps and resources. And finally, customize, secure access for all user types, right? And that means not just your information workers, not just your administrators, not just your executives, but even your frontline workers that really face your end customers, right? And including your end customers, if you have an identity solution for your end customers as well, you want to get those signals, right? So let's dive into each pillar and how securing identity and endpoints can help with each of these critical business initiatives. Okay, let's start with modernizing your identity and endpoint management. Now, to start any zero trust journey, you need to manage your identities and endpoints ideally in the cloud. That means modernizing your identity and endpoint management solutions as well. Now, the benefits of a cloud-based approach to identity and endpoint management are clear, right? Better security, reliability, IT efficiency. Now, on-premises infrastructure is often less secure, right? The level of security that you need to implement to go at the same level of a SaaS provider, right? The kind of authentication that gets done just by entering the data center, the amount of logs, the amount of security, on-prem security that cloud service providers employ. Uh, it is crazy for some of the organizations locally where you're not necessarily an IT company, you're not necessarily a cloud company. You may be a retail organization and your strength is not there. So why invest? Why take that hardship of setting up an on-premise infrastructure, right? It's a common attack vector as well. By modernizing identity and endpoint management, you can benefit from cloud scale security as well as resilience. You can also improve cost, right? By reducing your on-premises footprint and avoid ongoing maintenance and upgrade costs associated with managing on-prem environment, hardware that's out of support, software on servers that's no longer in support, right? Costs are top of mind for IT and security leaders, with 81% of business leaders stating that they feel pressure to lower security costs. And by managing identity and endpoints in the cloud, you can free up more resources to focus on more strategic IT as well as security projects. So how do you begin? How do you begin your identity and endpoint modernization? We recommend three strategies to help you get started. Number one, modernize authentication and manage identities in the cloud. Number two, manage your devices from the cloud. And finally, manage and unify all your apps with an integrated identity and endpoint management solution. Now, with Azure Active Directory and Microsoft Endpoint Management, you can either manage your identities or devices fully in the cloud, or you can even set up a hybrid approach, right? And migrate at your own pace and operate in a bit of a hybrid model if needed, right? Now, to modernize your identity and authentication, we recommend the following. Number one, move to modern authentication. Okay. Modern supported authentication models that allows authentication models with modern protocols, right? Let's stop using out of support protocols. Modern authentication allows you to implement capabilities like MFA, right? Multi-factor authentication by using tools like Azure AD Connect and Stage Rollout. You can test groups of users with cloud authentication capabilities like multi-factor authentication, conditional access, identity protection, and others before you start really cutting over your domains, right? Block legacy authentication or multi-factor authentication to be effective, you need to block legacy authentication. Otherwise, it's still an option. I can use it as my threat vector if I wanted to target your organization, right? This is because legacy authentication, like POP, right, SMTP, IMAP, MAPI, they can't enforce MFA, making them preferred entry points for adversaries attacking your organization. Your environment is ready to block legacy authentication to improve your tenant's protection, you can accomplish this goal with conditional access. And finally, if you're operating in a hybrid model, sync your on-premise identities to the cloud, right? You can do this by syncing identities with Azure AD Connect. So users gain a common identity for access to all the resources, no matter where they are, accessing on-premise apps, accessing cloud applications. There becomes a single identity where then you can put on that layer of security. Next, you want to modernize your endpoints, right? To modernize your endpoints, you can take the path to the cloud at your own pace with Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Many of our customers use Configuration Manager, or some of you may remember as SCCM, as the management tool for deploying and managing your on-premises Windows devices. Microsoft Intune, on the other hand, is the management tool to deploy and manage mobile devices and cloud-managed Windows 10 devices. Now, in November 2019, we introduced Microsoft Endpoint Manager, right, with the goal of making it simpler for organizations to take advantage of modern management by bringing together Configuration Manager or SCCM and Intune in a single unified endpoint management solution. The new tenant attached capabilities in Endpoint Manager provide the most flexible path for Configuration Manager customers to start gaining cloud benefits without necessarily enrolling their Windows clients with Intune. So what you do is you simply connect the organizational config manager site to the cloud, and a host of remote actions and analytics immediately become available. Now, some organizations may stay in this phase of modern management, and that is completely okay. we see modern management as a spectrum and have designed this platform to serve organizations at different levels of tech intensity. So organizations that are ready for the next step can use co-management, right, to manage Windows using both Configuration Manager as well as Intune at the same time, with each being the management authority for different types of workloads. This has seen a tremendous explosion in usage recently as enterprises discover that this gives them a unique advantage in quickly enabling remote workers while dealing with the additional challenges and uncertainty around their infrastructure and their setup. So customers stay in any one of these paths for as long as they like. Because remember, modern management is not a destination, but it's actually more of a methodology. Finally, as you modernize your identity and endpoint management, you should begin to unify your app management with a single identity and endpoint management solution. Like unifying your apps gives you better visibility and control into the apps, being used in your organization and gives your users a more seamless way to access all the apps they need with one set of credentials. That sticky note approach, this is my CRM username and password. This is my ERP username and password is not secure. With Azure AD and Microsoft Endpoint Manager, you can connect all your apps from cloud apps to on-premises apps, as well as desktop and mobile apps. And if you have apps on Active Directory, Federation Services, or ADFS, you can easily migrate them to Azure AD so you can have a single control plane to secure and manage all your apps. Now, one such organization uh, that you see over here is actually a university, or Durham University. Now, when COVID-19 began to spread, the university rapidly transitioned to remote work and learning. To make work from home simpler and more secure, they upgraded their on-premises Active Directory to Azure Active Directory. Now, employees sign in once to use on-premises and cloud apps with built-in secure controls to help safeguard Durham's intellectual property. Now, when you secure the hybrid workforce, right, it's really the norm. It all starts with, again, identity and endpoint management, right? So many organizations needed to transition fully remote work overnight, right? And you need to ensure that the people can be productive and secure while working remotely. So some of the strategies recommend, again, verifying user identities with strong supported authentication methods. Only allow compliant and trusted devices as they access resources as people are working from home. Configure adaptive access policies based on context and risk assessment, and protecting resources with an ongoing basis, right? With identity and access lifecycle management. Do you remember the last time your organization reviewed how many identities have admin privileges in this specific application? Right? That's key. Access lifecycle management is key. Now, we know that passwords are the weakest link in any security chain and a single point of failure without any additional verification. Again, turn on multi-factor authentication, which can prevent 99.9% of identity attacks, right? And we support a variety of authentication options to fit your needs, from passwordless authentication, um, token, security keys, Windows Hello, push notifications, to even SMS, right? Now, once you've verified identities, make sure that your endpoints are restricted, are compliant, right? You can secure your endpoints in multiple ways. Enrolling for device management, applying data protection policies on your devices, as well as your apps. A great example, we have a policy within Microsoft that if there are about, I think, 3 or 4 attempts of entering, the incorrect password on your mobile device, it automatically wipes work-related data. When I say work-related, that means my Outlook for work, without touching my Outlook personal, my Teams, right, and all these other apps for work, our CRM, our ERP apps on my phone, but it doesn't remove everything else that's personal to me, right? That's a great example of data protection policies on devices, and I only found out because we have a kid that played around played around with my phone, no? So I found out that all my work apps are no longer installed. It's a good policy, right? Uh, Now, especially because we have BYOD. Now, when we think about adaptive access policies, right, this is what I mean by that. So, conditional access is an intelligent policy engine built for this challenge. Its robust controls allow for you to define specific conditions for how users authenticate and gain access to apps and data. You can customize and manage and even automate policies and get reporting on the policies applied for each sign in. It gives you the ability to fine tune access, right? Based on the contextual user, the device, the location, the session risk information. Are they logging in for an unmanaged device? Uh, Password flawless, check. Um, but the device is something that's not corporate owned. Or maybe for the first time, the person is logging in from a country where that same user logged in a different country 5 minutes ago. That should be a red flag, right? Just because you have the right password, but you're logging in again with the right password, but from a different location again, should be a red flag, right? And then if that happens, you want to challenge that with an MFA or maybe totally block the whole thing, diba? And again, once access has been granted, you know, it's easy to grant but much harder to track. So you need the ability to trace who has access to which resources and quickly revoke that access when the user no longer needs it. Again, no employee with godlike powers, right? With Azure AD identity governance built into Azure AD, you can protect, monitor, audit access to critical assets, right? You can manage access lifecycle for any user, particularly. So this is an example of another customer for the purposes of time. These are global customers. Softline has a fantastic list of customers they work with. So I'll skip that. Now, as you think about truly transforming your employee experiences, right? A strong security foundation and identity and device strategy is very much key. It means you should ensure users have seamless access to all their apps, from SaaS apps, installed apps, and on-premise applications, right? No matter where they're located. Employees should also be empowered to manage and resolve help desk issues on their own with like password resets. Right? It's not fun to call IT just for the purposes of password reset, and IT doesn't like that either. And of course, having a great employee experience means that they can easily, securely collaborate with contractors, with partners, with contingent staff, right? So onboard employees, right? There's this great opportunity for you to streamline the way you manage identities through streamlining provisioning. When there's a new employee, you can streamline provisioning with Azure AD and allow them access to all the line of business applications. Create profiles. If there's a new salesperson, assign the sales profile, and that would automatically cascade from an access standpoint, right? As they move across roles, maybe an integration with HRIS, so that they also get updated access and they don't leave behind access for the likes of CRM if an employee moved to, say, facilities, right? Uh, so there you go. Make it easy for your employees, streamline provisioning, enable single sign-on so I don't have to do the sticky note approach, self-service experiences, and allow seamless collaboration within and outside your organization. Okay? And finally, if I can get this up, uh, customizing access, right? So when we think about customizing access, again, remember, authenticate everybody, but understand who is logging in and do they need access to what, right? So, customer facing resources, where they are like people like frontline workers, your retail workers, your bank tellers, or the applications, that customers directly use, they need to be flexible and secure to protect your brand and business. Today we see, I think yeah, there you go. 75% of frontline workers don't have the right tools to do their jobs. And 32% of customers would stop doing business with a brand they love after one bad experience. IT teams can no longer build solutions just for traditional information workers. but need to build solutions that account for your frontline workers as well and your direct customers, right? These are customer facing experiences. They are critical to protecting your brand and improving your overall collaboration. So a few things we recommend. Empower your frontline workers. Your bank, empower your bank tellers to have access to the right apps securely, right? So that they can deliver the best experiences for your customers. Safeguard your customers' identities. If you have customer facing apps, now is the best time to rethink about securing their identities, because I know for a fact that if I am one of your customers and there becomes an issue around my account with you, uh, fraud or anything else, then I'm sure gonna lose trust in the brand, right? And then protect your revenue and your customers with fraud protection across these identities, right? So as you think about your frontline workers, you can easily streamline them. You can enable SMS sign in, uh, and share device mode, right? So these are frontline capabilities. Customer facing apps, as I mentioned, and securing your uh, infrastructure through fraud assessments, right? So implementing a zero trust security model is a journey. Okay, it starts with securing your identities and endpoints. A strong identity and endpoint foundation can help accelerate key business initiatives such as modernizing IT, securing your hybrid workforce, and transforming your employee experience and customizing secure access all user types, frontline workers and customers included. As I shared at the beginning, the changes in how and where we work and increased security threats require a new set of principles and a new security approach, which is zero trust. Taken together, Azure AD and Endpoint Manager, along with our integrated security approach, helps ensure that not only the right people are getting the right level of access across your organization, but you're elevating both security and end user productivity as well. So that's a high level of, as you think about, implementing a zero trust strategy. What you'll have moving forward after my session today is more of a demo to appreciate what I've been talking about around identities and device management. But what I wanted to give you before we move into the demo was really a strategy, some tips that are actionable tips for you, right? And for your organization to start with, so that you don't get bombarded with all the things you have to implement around security. Okay? With that, I hope you found that useful. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at modernworkph@microsoft.com, and I will hand you back over to Rachel. Thanks, all.
Thank you, Vat. Thank you for your presentation. And you give every one of us has the view of how the zero trust security and how some of the couples of case studies that you share as well. So, as you mentioned, you shared a high level. I will invite our next speaker, which we will do a demo session for our audience here. So, over to you, John. Thank you, Vet.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Let me know if you can already see my slides.
Yes, Joe.
All right. Thank you. All right. So for our Microsoft Solutions demo, right? Let me just, yeah. All right. So for our first demo, I'll start with conditional access. So first, before I start, I would just like to say thank you and for all our participants, right, who joined us today. So to follow what Yvette or Vet mentioned about the zero trust security journey that we would be dealing with when it comes about the security of our organizations, especially our data. So, yep, I will be giving you some demo sessions. So what I have here at first is the conditional access, right? So for the conditional access, here. So what I have here is so if you have your Azure Active Directory tenant, right? So we have the conditional access, and together with that, right, we can make or add additional policies. So what I have here for the demos is the require multi-factor authentication for access from untrusted locations. So basically, conditional access is a tool used by Azure Active Directory to bring signals together. So make decisions and enforce your organizational policies, whatever you like. So we have several policies here when it comes about the conditional access. So one of them, so for example, if a user sign in from an untrusted location, we should challenge that user to enter or to use multi-factor authenticator. So it's an additional layer of protection for us to prove that the user is really the user itself, right? So by using conditional access policies, yep, you can apply the right access controls as needed to keep your organization secure and stay out of the way of your users the rest of the time. So as an example here, so the policy that we have here, so it requires the user to right, to to sign in. If the user signs in from an untrusted location, so he has to complete multi-factor authentication. Right. So we can first that we what we need to do is to assign this policy. So what I have here is that I assigned this specific policy to my sample user, which is Alex, right? And then together with the assignment, right, we add here the conditions. So the conditions that I have set up for today is all about the location. So but basically what we have here several conditions, so we can select whether we want to use the user sign in risk, the sign in risk, the device platforms, right, whether be it signing from an Android device or from a Windows or an iOS device. So we can do that with the use of conditional access. So we can also use conditional access based on client applications, as well as the device state, if it's an unmanaged or if it's a managed device or an hybrid Azure AD join device. So we can also have select this the filter for devices. But for today, let me drill on to the locations. So under the location conditions, right? So we can either select to configure or no, but for the purpose of this demo, yep, we will configure it. And I have included any location, but under my exclude tab, right? So I excluded a trusted location. So for example, if a user sign in from a from an untrusted location, he will be prompted by MFA. But if the user signs in from a trusted location, the user can sign in directly without any MFA. All right. And then of course, aside from the assignment, the condition, we should also configure the access controls. So for this one, so what I have selected here is to grant access, yes, but require MFA. Right? So we can see here several settings. So we can, for example, require device to be marked as compliant, or should we require a device or a user's access to be a hybrid AD joined. Yeah, and a lot of additional grant access here, right? So let's see. So let's test. All right. So I have here. Let's check first the location. So what I have set up for the location, right? So I have mhm. All right, let me check you the named locations that I have created first. So for the trusted locations, what I have set up here is I have only selected any IP addresses that is coming from Philippines. So this is my only trusted locations. Right. So let us check first our IP. Set. Ah, okay, so let's just try to sign in our user. Okay, so I have here Alex, which is the user that we have configured. Sorry, my IP checker don't want to work. Don't want to work together. Yeah. So as you can see,
Sorry,
ah,
Joe, maybe you can try in private window tab to log into the IP info. Yeah.
I see. All
Mm,
right, let me, because I am already using this one, maybe this one, right? IP info that. Thanks for that, Rachel.
no worries.
Thank you. Oh, it's still not working. I am already using the in private mode. Uh-huh. Let me check on this one. Yeah, don't want to cooperate today. But yes, yeah. So since right, so for so since I am logging in from Philippines or from a trusted location that I have configured. So Alex here, our user, yeah, has not been challenged for a multi-factor authentication. So let's try to let's try
Joe, maybe
to
I
remove,
share
yeah.
my screen because I managed to log into
Mm-hmm.
the website. Then
Yeah,
you can take
yeah,
control.
I it's all right. Okay. Yeah.
Give me a
Mm,
second. You
okay.
try to request control.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah. I have two screens, so this is the second screen. Yeah.
All right. So IP info is basically is just an IP address data trusted source. So it will tell you right from what country your IP address is located on. So basically for this the one that Rachel shared. Okay, it says here that her IP address belongs to Selangor. Right? Let me just check one more on my. Right. Okay, thanks for that, Rachel. So, right. So, to simulate a change of location, so basically not from the Philippines, right? So I have here my desktop. So I'm using here a VPN, right? So the VPN is connected through a United States IP address. So to check on that, right? So I don't know why the IP info.io is working on the desktop, right? So the IP checker says that the location is from New York City. So let's try to log in Alex here. All right. So type in Alex password and then try to sign in. So yeah, as you can see, it prompted me to approve sign in request. So this is a multi-factor authentication which I set up using my Microsoft Authenticator application. So I'll just approve the sign in. So here you go. So Alex was able to sign in as well. So I also have here um, yeah, an Android emulator, right, to simulate a login from a mobile device. So let's try to log in. All right. Mhm. So again, it requires Alex a multi-factor authentication because the IP address, right, is located um, on an untrusted location. Okay. So let's go back. So that's the demonstration for the conditional access. So you can make several policies about conditional access. So next demonstration is about mobile application data protection. All right. So what I have here, let me share this screen again. So basically for this one, we will be using the Intune application protection policy for um, Android. So yes, we have here our Android emulator. So for the Intune app protection policy for Android, so we will be using this for to manage our mobile application. So this one is basically being used for example, managing your users own devices, so your BYOD. So what I have here for the app protection policy, so I have the Android app protection data leak prevention policy. So if I drill over, so the policy itself, So we can see here several configurations and settings. So the name of the policy, yeah, the Android apps data leak prevention policy, it is supplied to Android, and then target all apps on devices type, and these are the applications, the managed applications that I have configured. So I have here the Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, OneDrive, right? And then for the data protection policies, so I have here configured prevent backups, so it is black. And then if I will be sending an organization data to other applications, so it will be prohibited, but it will be allowed for all of the policy managed apps. So it is, these are the our policy managed apps, right? So we cannot, right, save copies of org data on the device storage, but we can select storage for OneDrive, for business, and SharePoint. Yeah. Other settings here is that to restrict cut, copy, paste between other applications, but allow it for the policy managed apps. All right. So as you can see here, we can also require to encrypt the organizational data on that device, but for the purpose of this demo, I have selected it to be not required. And then to encrypt org data on enrolled devices, yep, I have configured it. And then sync policy manage apps, allow, printing org data, allow, strict web, yan. And then for the access requirement, right, so I have configured here the pin access. As you can see earlier, when I logged on to to an Android emulator, so it requires me to type my pin. So I have set up my pin for a minimum of 4 pin length, right? And then other settings such as biometrics, pin reset, so we can configure it here for the for our unmanaged device. And then lastly, for the conditional launch, so we can set max pin attempts. So if ever, for example, the this max pin attempts has been reached out, so we would block access to the user for 720 minutes, and then we would wipe data after 90 days. So we block access for any jailbroken or rooted devices, and then assign this policy to our users and groups. So I assigned here to these two policies. All right. So let's see here. All right. Yeah. So for this, let me just first disconnect our session on the, oh, mm-hmm. All right. So for this, for the ancient app protection policy demo, I'll be using another user, which is Megan. So it as well, again, prompted me to enter my PIN, which is um, a setting that I have configured on the policy. All right. So So for example, Megan opened her Outlook, and then let's try to um, open one email, right? And then let's copy. All right, so let's try to copy. And then let's open another manage application, which is for this example is a Word app, right? Yeah. So as you can see, I have successfully copy and pasted the content. So let's try to paste the content on an unmanaged application. So which for this example is the Google Chrome browser. So as you can see, it stated that my organization's data cannot be pasted here because this is an unmanaged application. So that is how our ancient app protection policy for Android works. All right, and then lastly, for the service discovery, right, I have here um, what we call the mhm, yeah, our cloud app security. So this cloud app security has been named to Defender for Microsoft Defender for cloud apps. So basically, this is a cloud access security broker that supports various deployment modes, including log location collections of your applications, so API connectors, and other reverse proxy. So it will help us to discover and control the use of shadow IT. So if we have several cloud applications, either be it IaaS and PaaS service used by our organizations, yes, we can investigate the usage patterns as well as to assess the risk and business readiness for all of those SaaS applications. Right. So as you can see here, let's go over the alerts. Right. So within these alerts, so we can select, for example, the applications that we would want the Defender for Cloud Apps to monitor and manage. So for this one, I have selected Office 365. So for example, suspicious activity, or for example, this one, the login from a risky IP address that I have set up before. So it will detect, for example, let's click that one, and the specific user using these specific applications, and then the alert, which is the login from a risky IP address. So this one I have used a VPN um, to um, to simulate a change of IP address. So this one, that it is located in Germany. So that's how cloud application security works. All right. All right. Yeah. Lastly, for the cloud discovery, right? So we can see here a various monitoring dashboards, so especially for our discovered applications. So if we would want to check the traffic from all of our high risk or medium or low risk applications, so we can see everything here, as well as the application categories and the discovered applications. So, which applications are sanctioned or unsanctioned within our organization. So, we can um, also select, create several policies here. All right, so that's all for the cloud discovery. I'll turn back the floor to Rachel.
Thanks, Joy. Thank you for your demo session for this,
Mm-hmm.
bringing us these three areas of our Microsoft security solution. So now let's invite our next speaker for today. And we have Christopher, John Christopher Otis, that will bring us through the softline offerings that is exclusively for our audience here. So over to you, John. Hi, John. Uh, I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
There you go.
Okay,
Hi everyone.
over to
Good
you.
morning or magandang umaga sa lahat. So thank you again for attending to our webinar for this day. And we're very glad Softline and Microsoft offers certain um, varieties of offerings that we have, especially Microsoft Cloud Accelerator Workshop. First, Microsoft Cloud Accelerator Workshop. This help us to enable our organization, new or existing customers who are really want to maximize the capability of Microsoft 365 and also unlock other opportunities to help and achieve their business goal. We have 14 workshops. Definitely from modern workplace, we do have the modernized endpoints, which we will talk about in deep dive more on endpoint management, how we can implement, how it works during the workshop, transition to cloud. If you are recently migrated to Microsoft 365, so what are the other capabilities that Microsoft can offers? Modernized communication, hybrid meetings, and Teams apps and solution are basically focused on Microsoft Teams that not just only for the communication standpoint in terms of teams but other capabilities like integration of your existing pbx where we can perform direct routing and also leverage the existing device to have a better meeting experience and overcome the hybrid work so we can have a Teams meeting rooms, and also integrate our existing apps right within Microsoft Teams so that user can instantly access from there. And of course, security. We are not just only focusing on one solution in terms of security, but it holistically. So this is a combination of security for Microsoft 365 or modern workplace and also for Azure. We can also unlock the other opportunities, the other capabilities of security of Microsoft. And lastly, the employees experience, which Microsoft recently launched last February, and this is for Microsoft Viva. So how we can take advantage, how we can implement to drive the and make sure that we have employees experience in our organization. Next slide, please. And then also we are a fast track partner. So for Microsoft, we are a Microsoft fast track partner. So if you recently migrated to Microsoft 365 and you are eligible to enroll for fast track, we can help you deploy or provide guidance and also unlock other opportunities to ensure that your end users would have can easily adopt the Microsoft 365 services. So we as your partner, we will help you drive the value of Microsoft 365 and even security as well. And then also we are in terms of cloud transformation, Softline is offering complimentary Azure credit for the first month. So if you have an existing workloads from your on-premise that you want to migrate to Azure, we can also help you provide a complimentary Azure credit for the first month. So we have four steps of migrate to Azure. So we can perform cloud assessment, also TCO, design and deploy, and lastly to migrate the workload. So regardless if it's an application or VMs or other workloads that we have to our existing infrastructure. And then also talking about the cloud assessment and migration, there will be no cost for this in just 2 weeks. So definitely we can migrate up to 5 VM with no cost. So let us know if you are interested so that we can help you and plan your cloud journey to Azure. And then also for Azure Starter offer or ASO, get started with Azure product that you need to develop in the cloud at no cost. So we have supported scenarios. So if ever that you have a Windows server, Linux server, app modernization, SQL, OS databases, so definitely we can help you out to um, move or develop to cloud with no cost. And then next is we also do Azure Health Checkup. So this is a complimentary package for our customers on Azure portal through Softline 24/7 Azure Managed Services apps. So this can help us to understand your cost and performance, best practices assessment, security and compliance, best practices assessment, licensing optimization, best practice assessment, and IT architecture recommendation. So this is not Softline is not just only providing the solution, but we also help you to ensure that you really understand the value of the service that you invested, especially for cloud. And talking about for if you are not yet migrated to Microsoft 365, then definitely this is the best time for you to move, as we have a limited offer basically for Microsoft 365 Business Basic. So it starts now at 2.50 per user per month, and Microsoft 365 Business Standard from 12.50 per user per month, it's now $10 per user per month. So let us know if you are interested and we can help you migrate also and plan for this opportunity for you to transform and leverage the cloud services of Microsoft.
Thank you, John. I believe this will be your last slide sharing, but there's quite a
Yes.
numbers of offerings we actually offer to our audience here. So for everyone that is interested to find out more, do click on the link that I shared through our chat room, and you can actually drop your request on which offering. You can select more than one for sure. Yeah, that you are interested to find out more, and then we will assign a representative to contact you directly. So before we wrap up, I would like to highlight the upcoming workshop or webinars that is happening in December from Softline. So you can actually find out more information or do stay tuned on our registration site by following our Facebook and LinkedIn. Do find us by searching Softline Philippines in both Facebook and LinkedIn. And these are our contact details. And if you would like to contact us, you can drop us an email and as well as drop us a call through this phone number I listed here. So the QR code has provided is actually the same link registration form. Sorry, is the same link of the feedback form or maybe a form that you can help us to find out which offerings that you are interested. So do scan the QR code here. So before we move on to the Q&A session, and then I would like to bring out the four takes away that you have get it from this webinar. So the first one, basically, I believe you have learned that the current pandemic that has forced most of the organization change in order to adapt, and then mostly our workforce has is been working from remotely, and then it actually creates more gaps and more risk and more anxiety for all of us. And Beth have bring you through that how Softline is that can become your trusted digital transformation IT partners, and what are the offerings that we are able to offer you the solution and services. And of course, with our distinguished speaker, Vet from Microsoft, he actually brought us through the high level of the zero trust security, the overall, and a few scenarios that he actually mentioned, and followed by the live demo from our colleagues Joy, and how the MFA works and how the endpoint management works as well. And just only that John has mentioned and presented a couple of software offerings to the audience here. So do feel free to reach out to us if you're interested. And I've shared as well the upcoming softline webinars. And do stay tuned our LinkedIn and Facebook post, and as we will post our registration link through there. So now is the moment of everyone's been waiting for. And if you are noticed that you can unmute yourself to ask question to the presenters here, do feel free to unmute yourself. And while waiting as well for our speakers to answer your question, you can actually scan this QR code as if you want to find out more about the offerings, or you want to request for presentation decks from the speakers today. And also you can drop your feedback, as your feedback is valuable to all of us in order for us to improve for the next session. So do feel free if you have any question, or you may also post in our chat room. Hi, Maureen. Yes, you would like to have the recording. Yeah, yes, you may drop your request through the form by scanning this QR code, and then I will send the link to you directly. Thank you, Maureen. So if you want to know more or explore in depth of how the MFA or maybe the AAD or endpoint management works, you can actually directly reach out to Joan as well, or drop your request through this form by scanning this QR code, and we can arrange for a consultation session for you, for your organization. I believe there's no further question, and no worries. Always you can reach out to us by scanning this QR code or drop us an email. So I would like to end the session by thanking everyone attending the event. And I would like to especially thank our guest speaker, Vet, for becoming the speakers for this webinar, for your time contributed to the webinar, and to everyone here for participating and spending your precious time to attend the webinar as well. So thank you so much, and good day and goodbye.